Welcome to Behind the Story, where we discover the story behind your favourite stories. My name is Lisa Renee from the Collab Press, and I'm also a contemporary Christian rom-com author.
And I'm Naomi Craig. I write historical fiction set in Bible times. Today, we have a great pre-recorded interview with Karen Witemeyer and her Fairest of Heart, Texas Ever After. It's a great chat. Really glad to talk with her. Be sure that you like Behind the Story so you are notified every time that we have a fantastic author, because usually they offer giveaways. So before we get it talking to Karen, what are you working on right now, Lisa?
Alrighty. Well, I'm doing a bit of editing for the Collab Press, so we do editing services and things like that. So that's been interesting, and I'm doing a non-fiction, so it's a bit different. But other than that, in the background, I'm working on a Kickstarter. So a Kickstarter is like a fundraiser, I guess, in one way for creatives, but this is where the backers, they get something out of it. So they get special editions, special hardbacks or things like that, or mentioned in the acknowledgements, or they can actually do a special edition where they get their name as the main character and things like that. So that's been fun.
Mrs. Baxter, Mrs. Baxter.
And if they get stretch goals, you raise certain points, you release certain things. So one of the stretch goals will be a story on Mrs. Baxter, which Naomi at Naomi's request. So it's good for your fans that sort of are familiar with the story, but also it's definitely for new people that haven't read it. So it's this novella is going to be sweet and clean rom-com, but also I'll have my Christian audiobooks and things like that, Christian rom-coms, or my original series. They'll be available, so there'll be different levels, so that's quite fun. But if anyone is interested, follow me. You can just follow, notify me on launch, so I'll put that link in there. And yeah, so that's been a lot of fun. And what about you, Naomi? What are you working on?
I just turned in my pre-order short story. It's a prequel to Shira's Legacy, and this is going back to Joseph in Egypt. So it's really cool, like, to see. There's historically documented a vizier who saved Egypt from a 7-year famine by interpreting a pharaoh's dream. There's so many other things about this particular guy that just, to me, say this is the guy. This is Joseph from the Bible. There is a slight differentiation with timelines. He is thought to be a little too far back. That would line up with the Bible timeline. But then there's also, lately, some scholars have said, it's possible that the pharaohs of the Northern Kingdom and the Southern Kingdom were at the same time, like the dynasties were overlapping. So is it the real Joseph? I'm not sure, but it's enough for me, and it is historical fiction. So I'm basing my Joseph off of this vizier, Imhotep, who was he's called a polymath, the world's first polymath. That's brilliant in many different areas. So
Wow.
he was deified later on. He's got his hands in medicine and astronomy and alchemy and stoneworking, and like, he's just brilliant and all.
Wow.
I mean, I'm sure some of that's gotten into legend, where it's like larger than life too, but he's pretty spectacular.
Well, that's really cool finding things in history that can link and line up, and and explore that. So that's cool.
Yeah, so if you pre-order Shira's Legacy, right now you can get a paperback in the United States. You can get a paperback for 30% off if you reserve your copy, and then also the ebook is at a discount price to $2.99. And then if you go through, you have to go through my publisher's website, but then you can log your purchase, and then you would be eligible to get this free short story. So,
oh, cool. And when's the release date?
It's August 15th. So we still have 2 months out, but it's
awesome.
Coming up. So
awesome. Well done. Awesome. Would you like to bring on our guest today?
Yeah, absolutely. We had this was a must-see author. We asked you And you said bring on Karen Witemeyer. So be sure to let us know who you'd like to see, because it's possible that we might make it happen. So today we have historical romance author Karen Witemeyer. A lifelong bookworm, Karen is living her dream by writing novels. Her books have consistently hit bestseller lists and have garnered numerous awards. Karen, welcome to Behind the Story.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. So for those who aren't familiar with you, tell us a little bit about you and what you write.
Sure. My name is Karen Witemeyer, and I am from Abilene, Texas. I'm originally from California. Came to Abilene to go to college and met my Texas sweetheart. So we got married after my junior year of college, and I just never left. So Texas is now my home. I've had 3 children here, raised them. So I feel like Texas is where I belong. Because of my new home here in Texas, all of my books happen to be set in different places in Texas. That's kind of part of my brand. I write Western historical romance. I have lots of adventure, humor, and feisty heroines and swoon-worthy Texas heroes with strong faith threads throughout my stories.
Excellent. Well, we're so glad you're with us. Your latest release, Fairest of Heart, is book 1 in the Texas Ever After series. Beauty has been nothing but a curse to Penelope Snow. When she becomes personal maid for a famous actress whose troupe is leaving Chicago to tour the West, she hides her figure beneath shapeless dresses and keeps her head down. But she still manages to attract the wrong attention, leaving her prospects in tatters and her jealous mistress plotting her demise. Tell us, what's the story behind Fairest of Heart?
So let me grab a copy of it here. Just happen to have it here. You might be able to tell from the cover that it's a Snow White retelling from her outfit. You might recognize that. So it is kind of a retelling of Snow White, but set in the Old West. So from the 1890s is the time period. And instead of a Prince Charming, we have a Texas Ranger hero. We have a heroine who is beautiful, but she's pure of heart. And we contrast that with the villainess, who is also beautiful, but she uses her beauty to manipulate men and to get what she wants out of life without having much morality along with it. And then, of course, we have to have 7 retired drovers at the Diamond D Ranch. So those kind of play the role of the dwarves. And I had so much fun with these old cantankerous grandpas. It was really a lot of fun to write their character. So there's a lot of nods to the Disney tale that we remember seeing in the movies as kids. But it's a fresh, unique story as well that it has nods to Disney, but it's its own fresh story.
Is this your first fairy tale retelling, or do you do more fairy
No,
tales?
this is my first one,
How
and it's been a
fun.
lot of fun. Yes.
It's easy to plot it out because you know how it ends and
Well, it was actually a little bit tricky because you want it to be reminiscent of the original fairy tale, but you don't want readers to be bored and think it's too predictable, right? So we had to find ways to kind of freshen it up, which made it a little bit challenging, but a lot of fun too.
Yeah. Awesome. So introduce us to Penelope. Is she like Snow White's character? I mean, there's not too much detail on Snow White's character with all the different versions. So what are her strengths and quirks in your story?
Sure. Yes, her name is Penelope Snow, so she is the Snow White character of the story. And like the Snow White from the Disney version, she has that look. So she's got the dark hair and the pale skin. She's very beautiful, but she's also very humble. She's very innocent of heart. And because of her past, she was abandoned as a child on the steps of a girls' school. So she was taken in by the cook and raised basically on charity. And so she's never really had a place to belong, never really had her own family. And so she's really hungry for finding that place where she belongs. And so through no fault of her own, she ends up getting abandoned. There's the huntsman story and all of that goes along. But so she's abandoned out in the middle of nowhere, left for dead, and she's discovered by these 7 retired drovers who take her in and kind of start to give her that home that she's been searching for. But of course, it's the Texas Ranger hero who's the main love interest, and unfortunately, he's trying to crack down on a jewel heist that's going on, and he thinks that Penelope is the prime suspect. So there's some conflict going on there originally, but eventually, obviously, they find their happy ever after.
So sweet. So on Amazon, Jody A. Wolf says Fairest of Heart is a fresh look at an old fairy tale. While the reader is aware of the storyline because of the fairy tale, Witemyer does an excellent job of making the story fresh and entertaining. I love the different nuances she touched on, but in a unique way. And a Kindle reader says, it is a page turner filled with God's love and grace and a great message about mercy and truth. So how do you find it balancing a timeless fairy tale with fresh story while adding the Christian elements to it? Did you really enjoy the process? Was it difficult for you, or?
I did really enjoy it. I mean, I've loved fairy tales since I was a kid. I used to listen to them on, the old plastic Fisher Price record
Yep.
player with those, follow along, ding, turn the page, that kind of thing. So it was a lot of fun for me to kind of revisit my childhood in getting in touch with these fairy tales. But I did want to keep it fresh. So, it's not just a story about a girl who was cast out and is found and all of that. There are those elements, but there's also this running theme with the ranger trying to solve this crime and trying to figure out if she's guilty, if she's innocent. There's a lot of subplots along the way. Also, we get into the villainess's point of view, which can be a little bit interesting. Yeah, it's kind of fun to be a little extra snarky, as I'm writing her scenes. But there's a big contrast between the way she uses her beauty and the way Penelope's beauty is more manifested from inside. And I love that the second review that you mentioned talked about balancing mercy and truth. That's one of the spiritual themes that comes out, especially in the hero's point of view. Titus is very much about justice. I mean, he's a Texas Ranger. He's all about justice and bringing the guilty to punishment. And he has to, as he's trying to debate, whether or not she's innocent or guilty, or how he's going to bring someone to justice. He has this conflict within himself, and he pulls out his Bible that he carries in his saddlebag. And his mother had, when he took a job as a Texas Ranger, marked several passages in the Bible for him, and starting in Psalms, and he just kind of read one to the next, and all of them mentioned mercy and truth together, and mercy was always listed first. And so that was one of those things that was interesting for me as I was writing it to discover. And God always opens some kind of truth as I'm writing these stories to me as well as to the characters. And so it was really interesting to find that, because I think a lot of times we are so focused on truth, which is good. I mean, we need to be focused on truth. But Christians can sometimes be very intolerant of people who disagree with them, and can kind of bash each other if we don't see doctrine exactly eye to eye. And so I think this was a good reminder that mercy needs to always accompany truth. Truth without mercy, truth without love, is like that sounding gong, that just it's not accomplishing what God wants it to accomplish. So having him kind of come to that realization that yes, truth is important and justice is important, but mercy is the key too. And one of my favorite verses, is from Micah 6:8, where we're saying, what does God want from you? Well, he wants us to act justly, but he wants us to love mercy and to walk humbly by his side. And so that's a good reminder, I think, for all of us, no matter what we're, dealing with, to always have that mercy accompanying truth.
I love that.
Yeah, that's really great. And it's, because you're writing Christian fiction, it's Christian audience. And so you don't have to preach to them about salvation. But
Right.
it is, we get in our rut, and then we can just be all about the rules and everything. And so that's great that you're highlighting mercy and you've got a message there. So well done with that. So is there any particular character that you feel like you related to the most, or some aspects?
So I always feel like I should relate to the heroine, but in in this story, I didn't. I mean, there are parts of me that related to the heroine, but I think I had so much fun with the 7 drovers at this ranch, and of course, each of them represent a different dwarf. And so Ike, I'm going to say, is the one that's most like me. Ike represents the happy dwarf character, and he is always cheerful, always optimistic. He's the peacemaker. There's 2 characters, Jeb and Angus, that kind of go at each other on a frequent basis. They tease each other and jab each other and kind of, are testy with each other. And Ike is the one that always shows up and tries to smooth things out. And that's kind of the role that I play in my everyday life. I'm kind of the peacemaker, and I want to be cheerful and happy, and try to be encouraging and uplifting. And so I'm going to say that I relate most to Ike in this story.
Okay,
I
that's a
love
good
it.
answer. You didn't relate to grumpy or sleepy.
Well, catch
Dopey.
me at the right time and I will definitely be
I'm
sleepy.
trying to remember them all. You picked the right one.
That's right. That's right. So for a midpoint question, comment below if you are watching this. Tell me about another hero or heroine that exudes mercy, that just shows that characteristic of mercy. Comment below. Let us know who else has this mercy happening in their books. So what would you say, Karen, is a real life aspect that goes into Fairest of Heart, whether that's something from the actual 1890s in Texas or in your life, or what was something real life that went into your book?
So I'll give you 2 answers to this question. The first one is, several years ago, I visited the Texas Ranger Museum in Waco, Texas. My daughter and I took a little weekend trip to Waco, and at the time, I did not have any Texas Rangers planned for any of my books, but as often happens, you just go and you absorb. And I remember finding on display a copy of the papers that they would carry that has their credentials with it, and I took a picture of it, and that actually made it into my book, with, of course, the names changed and that kind of thing. But so that was fun to have something from the museum that I took a picture of and then was able to insert it into my book. So that was kind of fun. But on a more personal note, so I told you how I've loved fairy tales since I was a kid. Well, my middle child, Wyatt, he got married last year, and his wife she loves all things Disney. They had their honeymoon at Disney World. They had a Tangled themed wedding. I mean, everything was just Disney everywhere. And of course, we loved that. And it was so sweet because when they were dating, I think that kind of helped plant the seed for doing fairy tale retellings. And then when I wrote the book, and of course, with traditional publishing, you write it so so much earlier before it actually comes out. But by the time it came out, I had just gotten my author copies in time for their 1-year anniversary. So it's actually dedicated to them, to Wyatt and McKenna, and I was able to present them a copy on their anniversary. So that was just kind of a fun way that it all just kind of came back around.
That's so cute. I love it. Tangled is such a good one too. I
is.
approve. I'm sure the pictures are gorgeous.
Wow, that's so cool. So that's quite a surprising thing we've learnt about your family with that. That's a great one, and relating to your story. What about yourself? What's something readers would be surprised to learn about you?
Something completely random. My favorite animal is the hippopotamus.
Wow.
So there's a little bit of a story behind it. When I was in, I don't know, probably 4th or 5th grade, maybe a little older, my best friend and I, you're that age, everybody has a favorite animal. Usually it's a cat or a dog or a horse or, something like that. And she and I were determined that we were not going to pick just run-of-the-mill animals for our favorite animals. So she picked the armadillo and I picked the hippopotamus. And we just kind of reveled in our little rebellion of, picking unusual animals to have as our favorites. So, and it stuck. I still have, I got a chance to go to Africa when I was 16 on a mission trip, and came home with some little little hippo figurines and some pictures that I had taken, and it kind of stuck. So it's kind of a thing now.
Well, you heard it first here behind the story. I love it.
That's really cool. We've got a little bit of extra time, and I just wanted to, it's not on our question, but just a bit of a summary about if people aren't familiar with you, like what other books have you got? How long have you been writing? Just like in a few minutes, just give us a little bit of a snapshot of your writing career.
Sure. So my first book came out in 2010. It was called A Tailor-Made Bride. And I have close to, I think about 25 books out now, if you count my novellas as well. The one I'm probably best known for is Short Straw Bride. That was the first of my Archer Brothers series. It's the one that readers typically say, "Oh, that was my favorite." So that's fun. My most recent series was the Hanger Horseman series, about 4 ex-cavalry officers that kind of bond together to try to go on they want to fight for justice. So they go and help those who have been oppressed or who are struggling and with no one to help them, kind of a Magnificent Seven meets the A-Team kind of thing. And so that was a lot of fun. And so now moving into Texas Ever After with the fairy tales. And so that's been a lot of fun. I also, back in March, released my very first indie book. So that was kind of a fun experience. Yeah, I'm
Tell
really
us
kind of
about that one.
liking it. So In Her Sights is the name of it, and it was actually the novella that kicked off a multi-author series that followed this pink pistol around from heroine to heroine throughout time. So mine started in 1893, and then by the time the 11-book series is done, it's in contemporary times. And so that was really kind of fun. My heroine got it from Annie Oakley, and she took shooting lessons from Annie Oakley. So that was fun doing that. So it was kind of, I'm now technically a hybrid author. So
Oh, well done.
That's exciting. Congratulations.
thank you.
So this Fairest of Heart is book 1. So what is coming next? What fairy tale are you using? Tell us about the next one.
Sure. So this one it stayed pretty close to the original story of Snow White. Each of the next 2 books are going to twist the fairy tale just a little bit more. So the next one is a Cinderella retelling, but it's going to be a Cinderfella retelling. So the hero plays the role of the impoverished he's the Cinderfella role. So he has a stepmother and 2 stepbrothers. But one of the things that I really wanted to do with this story is, I think stepmothers get a really bad rap in fairy tales. They're just always the villain. And so I really wanted to switch that up. I wanted to redeem the stepmother character. So in this story, the stepmother is not the villain. She is actually a very supportive, loving woman who, goes out of her way to be a blessing to her children and to the heroine, who is the daughter of the cattle king. So she's kind of the princess, but she's kind of the Princess Charming, I guess you could say. And so there'll be a little bit of a mystery on who the villain is in this story, but it opens with a ball at the cattleman's ranch, and a boot is left behind. And so she has to figure out who the boot belongs to, and it's called If the Boot Fits. So you can thank Woody from Toy Story for the inspiration on that title.
Excellent. I love that twist. I love that twist. That is so cool. Well,
I
where
think
can
it'll be
readers
fun.
follow you online? Where's the place that you hang out?
So my website, KarenWitemeyer.com, is the best place to find out all about my books and fun bonus material, and sign up for my newsletter, that kind of thing. But if you want to interact with me on social media, the best place to do that, I have a Facebook group called The Posse, and you can find a link to it on my website, or just search for The Posse and you should be able to find it. I'm there 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. I post every day. We have a great community there. We talk about books. They help me plot my stories sometimes, help me name my characters. They helped me come up with the names for my 7 drovers in this story, so that was a lot of fun. And so you get to have a little bit of part of the inspiration for my stories. And then we also do fun stuff like at Christmas, we exchange handmade ornaments and we do, lots of little fun things like that. So the Posse on Facebook is a great place to interact with me.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Karen, for sharing with our audience today on Behind the Story.
Thank you so much. It's been a great thing.
Well, remember to connect with Karen online. We'll have those links on the show notes. And she is giving a signed paperback away with our giveaway of her new release. So don't forget to enter that. And we also have some other giveaways that we usually do. The co-host, I've got a Christian rom-com. You can get an ebook and audiobook. I'll have that link in the show notes. And Naomi?
And of course, as always, I have On Desolate Heights, Balaam's Story. It's a novella about Balaam and his talking donkey for free when you sign up in my newsletter as well. Coming up next, we welcome debut biblical novelist Alicia Van Heusen to the show. I'm excited.
Huizen.
Huizen. I'm excited. She's currently as a missionary, so it's kind of fun to connect with her over on Biblical Fiction Aficionados. She's written about Naaman's servant girl, the little girl who said, I know someone who can heal your leprosy. So
wow, awesome.
Yeah, looks like it'll be a good one. So thank you so much for joining us on Behind the Story. Until next time, let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith. See you next time.